There's also a commitment in the plan to ensure that the Climate Change Secretariat has the power, authority, and resources to coordinate and report on greenhouse gas emission reductions and on progress directly to the Cabinet Committee that is to be created. So I don't see in the budget any sort of additional allocation to ensure that the Climate Change Secretariat has the resources to do that. It's still stuck over at environment, and I say stuck because when we're talking about climate action, we're talking about issues of transportation, we're talking about issues of local government, we're talking about issues of industrial and economic development, we're talking about issues of energy development, we're talking about forest management and agriculture. So in many provinces, in fact, or I should say in many, but in certainly some provinces, the Climate Change Secretariat has been attached to the Premier's office or the equivalent of the ECO because the issues are so cross-cutting across all departments, and it's always very difficult for a department, a line department, to then to effectively convince other line departments that somehow they're able to, get them to move on what would be seen as their agenda if it's not coming out of the Premier's office or the ECO, given how cross-cutting these actions are in dealing with so many different sectors and departments and even Crown corporations. So is there anything in this budget that ensures that the Climate Change Secretary will have the necessary authority and resources to do the job you want to do?
Thank you for the question through to the leader of the Green Party. As with any department, I'm not looking to add on to the bureaucracy in terms of a new department or a new committee, but I am looking to develop that capability within existing resources, and I inherently believe that those existing resources are there. To your point of having the the authority and the ability to impact change through departments, I certainly respect that as a concern. However, if I relay it back to personal experience in my former life, we had let's say a health and safety committee, and that's health and safety committee reported directly to the operations manager. And so every division within our company, let's say in the refinery at the time, knew that health and safety committee reported to the operations manager or general manager. And as a result, there wasn't any confusion about the level of input and the reporting structure and the actual reports that were done on a monthly or quarterly basis on impact and results that were being done or not being done. So I believe you can hold people very much accountable. You can hold departments very much accountable, but when you have a system that, in this case, you talk about measured results, but when you have a system that hasn't measured results for a long time, or the measurements keep changing because of changing governments, it's pretty difficult for a department to become focused or organized in a way that it's continually getting better. And so that's the goal. And everything can't be managed out of the Premier's office. But we have to have a structure of reporting. And that's where the nuance of the change comes into place. Getting the results and that to make us report on the progress and to get results where they're possible to do so and practical to do so, that'll come with it. Thank you.
Well, Mr. Chair, there's lots of work to be done to get the results that we need to. We have in our legislation an objective by 2030 for our carbon footprint to be at 10.7 million tons, and we're over 15, at least for the numbers we have for the most recent year. So that's over 4 million tons we've got to eliminate. 4 million tons of carbon emissions. That's measurable. And those results are clear. When we get to 2030, we either make it or not. Are we at 10.7 or are we not? So this is why I'm emphasizing that. We're not on track with the current initiatives to reach that target. If all of the initiatives in the plan were implemented effectively, as long as our emissions haven't continued to rise since 2016, and we'll maybe find out the next year, we will find out this 2017 results in a couple of weeks, but if all these were implemented, we'll get pretty close, but not right bang on, to achieving that measurable objective for 2030 of 10.7 million tons of CO2. So that's why I'm concerned that this plan, that the institutional mechanism for implementing the actions in this action plan will be effective, and that's why it's a bit concerning that there doesn't appear in the budget to be any increase to the authority or resources for the Climate Change Secretariat, nor has its relationship with the center of government changed, which I guess would speak to increased authority. So that's why I raise that. We've got a long way to go. We're not on course. And if it's business as usual and we don't implement these commitments, then we're not going to get anywhere near meeting those legislative objectives in the Climate Change Act. So in implementation, clearly, in terms of overseeing the implementation of all this, clearly in the action plan, it was set out as a responsibility of the center of government, which were why there's all these recommendations for the cabinet committee chaired by the premier, and ensuring that all mandate letters use the lens of climate change for the minister's responsibilities, and the same for MEX. So in terms of ensuring the implementation, the responsibility lies in the Premier's office ultimately, and so these questions were really directed at whether or not that's going to happen and whether or not implementation will take place, so we get those results. But let me move on to